Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to my channel. My name is Christiana Davidson. I'm a psychotherapist and a hypnotherapist, and I specialize in the area of narcissistic family systems. So we're going to dive straight into the topic today. This is one you may relate to. The title is Being Skilled at Dysfunctional Relationships and Navigating Them, but Not Healthy Ones. So, when you grow up in a narcissistic family system, you become highly skilled. You become an expert at being in dysfunctional relationships. You have all the skills to survive in them. However, you do not learn the skills of being in a healthy relationship. So today we're going to unpack some of those dysfunctional ways of being that we took on in childhood, and look at some suggestions as to how to break out of them and to begin becoming more healthy ourselves, because that is the work that we have to do, all of us. You know, even if you've come from a healthy, so-called healthy, normal family system, you will have taken on some dysfunction because there's no perfection out there. There are levels, though, of dysfunction, and today we're looking at probably one of the most highly dysfunctional. Now, what does that word dysfunctional actually refer to? Well, it means when something is not functioning well or healthily. It's not functioning according to how it should. And in this sense, it's toxic. So we're looking today, toxic, dysfunctional, narcissistic family systems. So, I've spoken about this before in other videos. You know, some of the early writers on narcissism and narcissistic family systems, like Cronemeyer, Bieber, they describe the narcissistic family system as a triadic one. And it's important to understand that because it has a certain impact upon how we relate to the outside world. So very briefly, the triadic narcissistic family system has a mother on one hand who is overly involved emotionally. She doesn't have good boundaries. She's anxious. She's pretty dominant. And like I say, just overly involved. On the other hand, we have a father who is generally more of the quiet, withdrawn, perhaps weaker, but can also be hostile and angry type. And then in between those two, we have the child of this family system. Remember, it functions together. The child then is caught between these two and is used by both parents as a means of maintaining the marriage. So we're looking today from the child's perspective, though. When the child experiences a father who is quiet, withdrawn, hostile, angry, whatever, they generally experience this as not being of any value for who they are. So usually those types of fathers are not taking an interest in who the child is, and wanting to get to know them. And so the child then feels not known, like a nothing almost. Now, with the mother who's overly emotionally involved, the child experiences this as what love is. Now, the thing is with these mothers, their overly emotionally involved nature has the intent of getting their own needs met. Their own fears of abandonment drive the need to merge with their child instead of getting their needs met in the partner. So here we have the child being used by a mother, loved by a mother. However, it's not actually love, it's conditional. The child is there as an object. However much she tries to love the child and, tries, whatever to do her best and, for all intents and purposes is being motherly, the intent is that this child is never to leave me. This child is an object of mine, a possession of mine for my emotional stability, for what I need for me, to meet my emotional lack. Okay, so basically the child there is used to meet the unmet needs in the marriage, and that's what makes it toxic. That shouldn't be the case. Children are not there to meet the needs of their parents. Children are not there to be emotional supports. It's meant to be the other way around. Okay, so let's have a look at both these parents now and just see some of the things that we will have taken on. Now, just before I say this next part, it could also be that this is the case sometimes, that the mother is not overly emotionally involved, that she's actually the opposite. She's more rejecting, cold, unempathic, and the father is usually pretty similar to what I've described. He's still sort of the less dominant one. He still uses the child to meet some kind of need of the mother, which is usually to keep her happy, because that's what he needs. So the father then is also pandering to the mother, trying to keep her happy, and expects then the child to do the same, or else he'll fly into a rage. So there is a slight difference there, but the classic one is the overly emotionally involved mother, the smothering one, the enmeshing one. Okay, so these are some of the skills of dysfunction. I would say this is a level 10 checklist. So if you recognize yourself in any of these, I won't be surprised that it reflects the narcissistic family system that you come from. So from the mother, we learn, first of all, not to have any boundaries around ourselves, that we are not separate from others, and that for us to put in a boundary around what we like or what we want, or to say no, is something that we're doing on purpose to reject the other. So we learn that in order to make somebody else feel loved by us, we must have no boundaries. We must allow them access to all of us. We mustn't hold anything back, because that could be perceived, or would be perceived by the other, as us rejecting them, as us being secretive, of not being upfront and authentic. And of course, it's not. We also will find that we actually want to enmesh with other people in our lives, not just romantic partners. We want to enmesh with friends, bosses, and partners, obviously, because that's what we know that love is. And what is enmeshment? Well, it means that you become the center of somebody else's world and they become the center of yours. You make them the center of your world, in other words, and they rely on you as the center of theirs in a lot of ways, the central part of their life. That's not love, that's enmeshment. Now, the thing about this is, we tend to perceive then that when somebody else doesn't want to enmesh with us, or we have a boss who's got healthy relationship boundaries and doesn't seek out, the other person doesn't seek out constant texting, constant messages, constant asking how your day is, wanting to know what you're doing, etc. We end up perceiving that as rejection. It's like they don't love us. Well, no, actually, they do. It's just that this is healthy love where there is a separation, not an enmeshed fusing. We also learn from these types of mothers and the narcissistic family system to abandon our own needs in order to take on the needs of the parent or the other person as if they're our own. So we latch on to the feelings, needs, moods, whatever of the other person, and we take it on as if those are our feelings, those are our experiences. And we do this in order that we don't have to look at our own, because looking at our own means that we're in threat of being abandoned, and also in threat of not being able to meet these unmet needs in ourselves because there's no one there to meet them. Okay. We learn that the partner's unhappiness is our unhappiness too. And that it's your responsibility to solve their unhappiness issue. And not only that, to take action on it. You need to step up and bring about happiness, restore the happiness somehow. We also learn that it's your role to rescue, to save, to be the therapist. Why? Because if your partner needs you in this sense, then you feel safe. You're needed. That's the conditional love bit. Conditional love is love to you. So, oh my goodness, that means I'm safe and needed. But if that is taken away, they don't need you to be rescuing them. They don't need you to therapize them. It's scary because what's your use? Likewise, growing up in these family systems, you tend to take all things personally and have no sense of separation from their issues and your own. Their issues become yours, and you detach from your own experience to experience the world through their eyes, because you believe if you can do that, then you're showing love for them, you're empathizing with them. And of course, that's not love. That's abandonment of self. That's toxicity. It's dysfunction, not only from the other person's side, but from our own. You tend to agree with their negative view of you, and you can understand and see where that would come from. And you try to prove yourself all the time that you're not this negative image that they have of you. But in so doing, often it can go a bit pear-shaped. Also, you really learn from this that, the longevity and stability of the relationship rests entirely on you. In that sense, you learn that you are both the savior, but you're also potentially a threat to the system. It all rests on your shoulders. So we believe that in relationships and later on in life, then, that we are responsible for the whole thing lasting. So it's stressful, highly stressful. That's what we learn. Only a couple more here from the mother. You learn to put up with other people's dysfunction. How? By empathizing with the cause of it for them. Gosh, their childhood wounds. And we have to just sort of put up with this. She's been through so much, or he's been through so much. And you often end up then attracting narcissistic types because you are so used to this denial. You have the key skill of dysfunctional relationships, which is denial of the reality of it. And likewise, you become an enabler. Okay, so from the father's side now, what do you learn? Well, often the clients will say that they don't feel worthy of being known. You know, it's like the father never took the time to step into their world really and get to know them. They were just sort of sidelined with mum or put with mum in order to keep the peace. If they learn also, you may have learned that you're a financial burden in relationships. So you tend to minimize your physical needs or spending or feel guilty about spending any money. You may have learned that in relationships, you're there to make other people look good in whatever way is needed to them, academically, physically, you know, however. You learn that you must be quiet and not have needs or not have many needs, just minimum, you know, that's what will make you lovable, and not have many requests of energy from them either. You learn that you need to slot into their world and you have to support it. You have to support the maintenance of their world. So often people will take on, you know, they'll work for their partner, or they'll, I don't know, do all the chores in the house and have no room or time for anything of their own dreams or career. You learn also that from the father that, you know, you are allowed to be yourself, to be what you want rather, but it'll often come with criticism and questioning and disappointment. So, lastly, here, in essence, in the narcissistic family system, we learn to be reactive to the needs of others by deactivating ourselves, our needs, our personality, our emotional responses, in order to ensure that the relationship will last. And that, my friends, is toxic. That is dysfunctional. But we believe that this is how it works, and we believe that this is what will make a relationship good. We believe it's us being loving and unselfish. But of course, it's not. It's actually enabling selfish people. So when you experience healthy relating from somebody else, it can be highly disconcerting. You're almost like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. But some key things I suggest that we all have to learn are: number one, to speak up, not squeak up. Number two, to put in boundaries and to also have consequences around those boundaries. Really key this. To not give all information in any relationship, to hold back some. You don't have to expose everything about yourself. We also have to put in boundaries around being manipulated and bad behavior, and trust our gut on that. We also have to learn to not let others' moods dictate how we feel or what we do, to just let them do it, let them have it. To stop rescuing, but rather to allow, and to put empathy for ourselves first and validate our own experiences. And then lastly, also to allow ourselves to take up space in a relationship and to value ourselves in relationship, not to be constantly criticizing ourselves for not being able to connect or not being good enough in relationships. No, rather to really value who you are, and to allow gradually others to get to know you. And when you experience someone as not really wanting to know you, There's the biggest red flag. Okay, everybody, I hope that was helpful. Please reach out to me if you'd like to work with me. I have the most wonderful 2 courses. I also offer one-to-one sessions, both psychotherapy and hypnotherapy. And if you want a therapist who gets it, I'm your woman. www.delightinyou.com. Take care, everybody. Bye.